Welcome into the Bear Cave. Today, we're just going to be going through the preliminary coaching staff that Ben Johnson has put together. And Dobbs, I'm not going to lie, before we get into, specific people, I'm pretty impressed with what he's done on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if I love what he's done on the offensive side of the ball so far, at least. There's only been a couple hires on the offensive side of the ball, but defense should be looking pretty good. Offense, I don't know. It's a little underwhelming to me personally.
Okay, I'll say this because, and they're my honest thoughts, and I'll save most of what I think for when we get into each specific person. I understand what you're saying, but I also, I hopefully I'll make you feel better. I do have some positives about the offensive side. I do agree, though. Look, and I know I've been saying this before. We kind of crowned Dennis Allen before it really happened. We had a good feeling, and all signs pointed to it, right? But as far as Dennis Allen goes, look, Bears fans, you guys are in really good hands. I'm telling you right now, especially because, like we said too, you don't have to really change the defensive scheme at all. Like, yes, you'll move around a little bit and you'll change fronts a little bit and whatnot. But generally, the scheme is still the same. You don't have to go completely crazy and change, positions all around. So that's already a major W. I mean, and just frankly, how it is, Dennis Allen is just a huge upgrade on Flus that runs the same scheme. You guys are going to love him. Yes, I know as a head coach, it left a sour taste in people's mouths. But again, as we always talk about, Hunter, the head coaching responsibility and hats is much different than when you just get to wear your specific hat that you dominate in, which is the defense or Dennis Allen. So Bears fans should be ecstatic.
The reality is, like, just so many people, and we see it time and time again in the NFL, like, they're just not made for the coaching role. Like, you see Steve Spagnuolo, like, he is going to be a lifetime DC at this point. Like, he is not getting another head coaching job.
I wish someone would purge him away, but
I think 31 teams wish they could do that. But with that being said, Dennis Allen, to me, is a great hire by the Bears because not only is he a great defensive coordinator, which that was kind of my concern when the Bears moved on from Flus, is I was okay with our defense kind of regressing and offense kind of taking a leap. I don't know if our defense is going to regress at all. I could actually see it being better than it was last year because of the fact that Dennis Allen is here. And another thing that is super underrated about Dennis Allen is he has that coaching experience. No one's gonna take him away if he has a good year. And the reality is Ben Johnson is going to be able to lean on him for advice and trying to figure out, I've never done this as a head coach before. Dennis Allen can give him some advice. So just a quick insight into Dennis Allen. He was a graduate assistant at Texas A&M through 1996 to 1999. He was at Tulsa as a secondary coach from 2000 to 2001. Atlanta Falcons quality control on defense 2002 to 2003. Then he was promoted to a defensive assistant in Atlanta until 2005. The New Orleans Saints assistant defensive line head coach from 06 to 07. The secondary coach from 08 to 10. The Denver Broncos defensive coordinator in 2011. And then he was the Oakland Raiders head coach from 2012 to 2014. Comes back to New Orleans in 2016 as a defensive assistant. Then he's a defensive coordinator from 2015 to 2021. Then he's the New Orleans head coach for 2022 to 2024. And now he's a DC in Chicago. So someone with a lot of history and someone who's been around the league for quite a long time.
No, yeah. Well, again, that's exactly what you want. But moreover, I mean, I know just, I'm singing the praises over and over again, but for good reason. I mean, again, he came to New Orleans and completely changed the fabric of what was such a bad defense for so long. And I think he's going to, again, because the Bears have been kind of on and off. It's not like it's been like terrible for a long period of time or anything, but the standards last year were not met and they will be remet now with Dennis Allen in the building. And that's the main thing just to keep harping on, because Bears fans who are skeptical should be ecstatic. This is going to be a hire that really will change the game. As far as we always talk about how you want to give Caleb and you want to give a young, QB as many possessions as possible. You want to be able to keep that clock on your side. This is that flip, the switch flip that the Bears needed. They will now be having very often that the possession advantage on their side. You'll be seeing many more 3 and outs. Like, it's a game changer, Hunter. Like, it really is. This was the best case scenario,
I guess,
in my opinion, for the defense.
I agree, and I think it was kind of out of nowhere, and it was really impressive. being able to bring him in. Now, Dobbs, let me ask you this: like, can you kind of compare and contrast like the differences between Dennis Allen and Flus? Like, I would argue that Allen is probably a little bit more aggressive on defense.
Well, I was going to say right off the bat, I'm actually glad you asked because I didn't know like if I was going to have a chance to talk about like the strengths. Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know what I wanted to fit it in, but I'm glad you mentioned it because here's the thing. Okay, well, number one, you're going to be seeing way more man coverage. And as we know, Flus kind of like to live in his zones, and he kind of liked
Lived
to
in the
live in his shell
zone.
and play it safe. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? As a philosophy, but I think as we can agree on, the best defensive coordinators know when to mix and match, and they have that game flow, right? Like it's the right time to bring the blitz. It's he is all, but I will say, undoubtedly, you're going to see a lot more man coverage than you ever saw with Flus. Like you know, the Bears will be living in man much more often than they live in zone, but that's fine. They have the personnel to do that, and I think if anything, too, what I will say is this: this is something that Bears fans should really be excited about because this is what I think I'm most excited about seeing Dennis Allen now on the Bears is, kind of a little thing that because again, the Saints don't get a lot of national attention, but real ball knowers know. When the Saints took Demario Davis from the Jets, like he was a good linebacker, but he was not like the all-world linebacker he turned into on the Saints. Now, again, because Tremaine Edmonds is weird where he's had a really good year, but then it kind of last year wasn't terrible, but it certainly wasn't what Bears fans expected. Look, if Dennis Allen can come and turn Tremaine Edmonds even into 3/4, half of what Demario Davis was for the Saints, it's going to be a huge upgrade. And all of a sudden, that money that they're paying him that we said looked really bad, if he can be that playmaker for the Bears in the middle that they desperately need right now, I mean, again, all of a sudden, like seriously, Hunter, the fabric of the Bears defense just changes completely.
Well, it's funny you say that, Dobbs, because when they got Dennis Allen, my first thought was, I wonder how Tremaine Edmonds is going to fare because I know he's been a little bit of disappointment to Bears fans. But also, I'm interested to see if there's a possibility they bring in Chase Young and pair him with Montez Sweat again. Like, Young had some success with Allen last year, and it would be a good addition next to Montez Sweat. He kind of fits the mold. From what I understand, Dennis Allen likes
Well,
the
they already
bigger
have that
body.
chemistry.
Yeah, they already have it. So talking still on the defense, one of the more underrated hires is got to be Al Harris, who he is now the defensive backs coach and defensive pass game coordinator for Chicago Bears. He was a very good corner in the league who played for the Eagles, Packers, Dolphins, and Rams. He started off in 2012 as a coaching intern, moved to Kansas City as an assistant secondary and defensive assistant, was promoted in Kansas City from 2014 to 2015. Then he was the secondary cornerbacks coach from 2016 to 2018 with KC. Then he went and coached at FAU in 2019, and he has been the Dallas Cowboys defensive backs coach since 2020. But in 2024, he was given the promotion of assistant head coach. So I think Bears fans need to be kind of excited about this because we have seen like how well our secondary can play, and we know that they have all the talent in the world. It's really just coaching. And Al Harris is a guy who I feel like could fix Tyreek Stevenson. Like, this guy was an assistant head coach, and he was a very good corner in the league. So, with that being said, to have him as your secondary, I mean, a lot of people forget when Trayvon Diggs went down that one year, they're like, oh, their secondary is cooked. And then Deron Bland came out of nowhere and was tearing it up. So, this is a guy who can develop players, develop talent, and the Bears have a lot of young talent in their cornerback and secondary room.
Well, not only just that, Hunter, might I add, kind of just to go along with what we were just saying, why it's the perfect hire for the Bears too, is because you're going to be seeing so much more man coverage. Who better to bring in than Al, who very clearly specializes in getting his guys to be able to make that break on the ball at the perfect time. It's no coincidence that Diggs was, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because I know for a fact Bland was. I just have to fact check myself real quick. But if I'm not mistaken, Diggs was also the interception leader, right? The year before that, if I'm not
Yes, I
mistaken.
believe so.
So, and I know if he wasn't the leader, he was definitely number 2. So the bottom line is either way, I'm looking it up right now just to check myself. But the bottom line is, regardless, and yes, he was with the 11 interceptions in 2021. So you're bringing in a guy who literally specializes. And don't get me wrong, his guys are still going to be stout in zone too. That's the best part. But specifically for this Dennis Allen defense, where you want your guys to be making breaks on the balls at the right time, You want to be able to maximize those blitz situations, those zero situations. You couldn't have asked for a better guy, in my opinion. So it's all that this is just as big of a home run hire as Dennis Allen because they synergize so well.
I'm really interested to see who they bring in as the D line coach because there are some people that are still technically retained. I think maybe they just haven't brought in like their own guys yet. But I think people, I think some people are still caught on the first half of the season Bears defense, and there's another group that's caught on the second half. And I'll tell you what, I'm really, really stuck on the second half defense because the reality is they were last in just about every category. And when you watch the discourse between the Bears, a lot of people are like, well, their defense is so good. Like Caleb sucks so bad, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at the stats past week 7, they're last in just about every category. They were just so good the first couple weeks that they looked amazing statistically because it carried that heavy. But they really weren't that good last year. And when you have a guy like Dennis Allen, who's an upgrade over Flus, and then bring in a guy like Al Harris to coach your secondary, listen, if they're able to up the talent on that defensive line, the Bears defensive unit can legitimately be top 5. I mean, Dennis Allen's units for the Saints have been top 5 4 out of the last, or top 10 or top 5 4 of the last 5 years. So for a defense who already has the pieces, especially with Jalen Johnson, I don't know if you saw that chart where he was like third behind like Darrell Revis. Like that's insane.
No, it is. Might I add just quick side note? It was even crazy because I knew he had a great year. The fact that AJ Boye actually has statistically the greatest corner season in history was the biggest plot twist of that whole chart. Shout out to AJ Boye. But no, I mean, Hunter, I was just gonna say, like to get back on the right tangent. Yeah, Jalen's gonna have probably. I won't because that it's gonna be really hard to outdo that specific year. But he's gonna have the second best year of his career, if not the best. And he's going to go. He's going to go nuclear with the interceptions. I think if you're going to the sports books and you like betting, go over 5 interceptions this upcoming year. Book it. He's going to be in situations to make plays on the ball every game. It's
I'm
up to
really
him to do it,
interested
but
to
I have faith
see.
he'll be able to do it. Could we see a Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland type interception season from him? Like
I think the
got
Bears
talent.
defense is going to turn the ball over quite a bit this year. Honestly, like that would be my guess. You have a very deep corner and secondary room. If you can get the D line correct, I mean, you have all the pieces on defense. Moving in to the offensive side, we'll talk about the OC, Declan Doyle. He was a student assistant at Iowa in 2016, 2018. He was with the New Orleans Saints in 2019, 2022. Then he's been the tight ends coach for the Denver Broncos from 2023 to 2024. So he has stuck close to Sean Payton. I think people need to understand why so many tight ends coaches get hired for higher positions because they have to know the run and the pass game. They're not just a run game coordinator, right? Where they're strictly focusing on the run. They have to figure out the blocking schemes for the tight end. They got to figure out the routes. So it's kind of like a natural progression to offensive coordinator. Now, this is probably the most underwhelming hire to me of Ben Johnson so far. But the fact that he is a young talent and or a young coach who has been recruited kind of by Sean Payton. I mean, he brought him with him to Denver. He was with him in New Orleans. So I think that goes to show like the talent that can be there. I also do think there was kind of this narrative out there that Ben Johnson really wanted to bring in idea guys. Like you're probably going to get idea guys from younger people on the staff. So you can't forget that Ben Johnson is calling the plays. Here's my thing. I really would have liked an O-line coach, like a very, very good O-line coach to be the OC. So then it would be harder to hire him away. With that being said, though, if they get the O-line hire right, I think I'm okay with Declan Doyle as the OC.
Well, here's what I'm going to say, Hunter. I'm going to spin it positively because I hear what you're saying, but here's where I think I see it as a very good. And I'm serious. I think that I actually like it a lot. Number one, you're getting a guy who's young, who right, he still has a lot of room to develop, right? Like he's nowhere near his ceiling, hopefully, from the perspective of that now. let me tie it all together, right? Because as you said, right, my big thing is, I'm a Sean Payton guy. He's been around Sean Payton for a long time, starting with right one of the best years in Saints history. So he's been around a legendary offense. He's been around a legendary offensive mind, and he stuck with him. I think if you're Ben Johnson, what you're thinking is, and to kind of even compare it back to the Saints in another way, right? For so long, Pete Carmichael was the Saints OC, right? But we know like Sean Payton was the offensive coordinator, right? And it's kind of like Sean Payton was the one doing everything. Pete Carmichael's just kind of there to clean up, make sure that the offense is on the same page, and to kind of be like that second, right? Just the guy who's instilling the concepts in the offense over and over again while Ben Johnson's occupied elsewhere. Right. And then and when we saw what happened when Sean Payton left and Pete Carmichael was still in the building, right? It was kind of like, okay, like, yeah, he was the OC, but like very clearly he wasn't the OC.
Yeah.
Well, we can see like very clearly that's already exactly the path that the Bears are going on here, right? Like they're like, okay, I want a guy who can reflect similar philosophies to me, but also can bring in those Sean Payton ideas, and we can kind of mesh really well because that's always the system you want to be meshing with. And from there, right, he can kind of be my guy whenever I need to be occupied elsewhere. He'll just be my guy, regurgitating the same stuff that I've been talking to him about all week and make sure the offense, we're all on the same page for game week. But in reality, that's kind of all he's doing at the end of the day, right? He's not going to be calling plays. He's not going to be, right, oh, Ben, I think that we should dial this up. It's like, yeah, that'll be Ben's job, and he'll just play his role. But I think, and here's the thing, Hunter, I think that's exactly what the Bears need. I think they need someone who's going to not try to get anywhere close to overstepping their ground, who's just going to be able to be on the sidelines, make sure everybody's on the same page while Ben Johnson cooks. And that's exactly what they got. So, like, I do get what you're saying, and I get your concern with it. But I would say you have a guy who can hopefully be there for a really long time going forward, who, like, to your point, won't get purged away. And he can just play his role for a long time and help maximize what Ben Johnson wants to do for the Bears offense.
Yeah, I'm open to it. I just think out of all the hires, like we can get into the next one. Like the next one was like to me like a home run. Antwaan Randle as the assistant head coach / wide receivers coach. He played for the Steelers, the Commanders, and the Steelers again. He had a second stint, but he was the offensive assistant coach for the Bucs from 2019-2020, the Detroit Lions 2021 to 2024 wide receivers coach. And the Bears were able to hire him away as the wide receivers coach because they gave him the assistant head coach title. Now, I don't know about you, and I know this is a lot to do with the scheme thing, but the Ravens, I'm all over the place today. The Lions receiving core has been one of the better ones in the league. We saw Tim Patrick going nuclear this year.
Like the words out of my mouth.
Also, I saw that Randle was actually drafted by the Cubs, and he's from Illinois. So this is kind of like a homecoming for him. And I just think this is going to be one of the best hires of the staff. Like, I think to bring him in with DJ Moore, to Romo Dunze, whoever they bring as a wide receiver 3, this is the guy that those guys needed.
No, absolutely. I think, and again, especially because, and I don't want to say it's been an underrated thing because it's definitely been discussed, but we now all of a sudden, right? Because before it was kind of, last year was a mesh of a lot of different things going wrong and a different offensive minds taking control of things. You didn't feel like every Bears receiver necessarily had like their exact role, if that makes sense. Like there wasn't like you knew for sure like where everyone was going to be and what their job was going to be on most plays. Well, all of a sudden, right? Well, we know it's like, okay, DJ Moore is going to take that Amon-Ra slot. Like we know for a fact that we're going to see Rome on the outside basically every snap, assumingly. And if somehow I'm wrong and that Rome ends up being the Amon-Ra role, I'll be shocked. But it could happen, I suppose. But I'm saying for sure it looks like DJ Moore will lock in that spot, assuming all things that we know about Ben Johnson and what he likes to do with that. So the point that still stands no matter what, that everybody's going to have a much more specific designed role in the offense. We're not going to be constantly trying to move people around and there's just no point. And you're spot on. Like he went from already a fantastic situation with the Bucs to a situation where then helping the Lions blossom into what they ended up becoming, where they went from that bottom feeding franchise to all of a sudden franchise that you have to take seriously. And to your point, Hunter, the Bears, this was an absolute home run. Like I said, I'm higher on Declan Doyle than you are, but I do agree that this is still all around optically and just probably just materially a better hire and the best hire they've made on offense. So I would say that this look, the staff Ben Johnson's putting together, if you're a Bears fan, you should be absolutely ecstatic right now. Like the receivers it should be so much different next year. But aside even just from just just the receivers, how much this is going to help Caleb. Like I've been saying, Hunter, if you were a Bears fan that wanted to hop off the Caleb train and you wanted to start, whatever, talking bad about Caleb, whatever, you got to be ready for what you're going to see next year. Because what you're going to see next year is a complete turnaround, and it's going to be, it's going to be beautiful to watch for the Caleb truthers who stayed on the train.
There was just so much miscommunication between the receivers and the quarterback last year. And you wonder if that's from the OC, that's from the wide receiver standpoint, if from the players. It's probably a mix of all three. But at the end of the day, it's coaching. Like, you are paid to make sure these players succeed and do well. And they just didn't. It's very obvious they didn't have coaching. Last hire for right now, outside of special teams coordinator, because that's Richard Hightower. I think it's expected he's retained. But the quarterback coach, JT Barrett, he had a great year. He was great at Ohio State. He played for the Saints, the Seahawks, the Saints again, the Steelers, and the Edmonton Elks. So never really made it in the league, but he was the offensive assistant for Detroit in 2022, the assistant quarterbacks coach from 2023 to 2024. And then the Bears, he's now the quarterbacks coach. Now, I like this. Here's my one thing, though, that I'm a little nervous about for the offensive side of the ball. It seems like there's a lot of experience and a little bit more age on the defensive coaching staff. I mean, Ben Johnson's 38? JT Barrett is 30. Declan Doyle's 28. Antwaan Randle is 45. Like, right now, outside of the guys that are retained for the moment, you don't have a single guy over 50. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It makes me a little nervous, though, that it could put them in situations where they haven't seen something and they just have to figure out, instead of asking a guy that's been there in the league for years and years and years and knows the answer. But it seems like they're trying to go with a more like idealistic approach and create like a think tank, which can be good, can be bad. It just depends on where Ben Johnson draws the line.
No, I agree with you completely. And you're spot on. I think my big thing is though too why even though yes, the age is a thing. But you know what? Look, JT Barrett was there to help, right? Even though obviously again we're going to contribute most of it to Ben Johnson, right? He was a part of what was Jared Goff's resurgence. And yeah, we know how Jared Goff just looked in the playoff game. Whatever. But the bottom line is Jared Goff had a complete resurgence no matter how you want to spin it. And his time in Detroit overall has been very positive as opposed to the few negative times in the timeline. So, JT Barrett being a part of that is huge. And I think, it is an interesting staff. I will say this, Hunter, like overall, like it is certainly interesting. And if you, I think the age is a surprise to me. Like I'm very shocked that this is like what Ben Johnson went with, because to your point, it does concern me too. I don't think you want to be in a situation where you're completely out leveraged by experience in most situations you're going to find yourself in, because that is just exactly what is going to happen. But if Ben Johnson is who we think he is, and even to the point of sometimes, you know what? Let me try to spin it positively. The NFL has changed a lot over the years, and maybe to an extent, the more young, fresh minds you have in the building, the better, because things have changed so much that maybe having older ideals and a lot of older, just minds in the building might end up just being a net negative. And maybe that's how Ben Johnson and the brass see it right now. It's kind of like, things have changed. Having younger guys with the fresher ideas is the way to move forward. And maybe they're just ahead of the game.
I just get concerned that it's like, it's something that could have been avoided. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm optimistic about the staff, and I think it is overall. Funny enough, dude, like I worry about it on the offensive side of the ball. Like defense, I'm not worried about at all. And it's like we just got the top hire in the coaching cycle. Who is the offensive guy? So maybe I'm overblowing it. Maybe I'm like, Ben Johnson is running the show anyway. These guys are just kind of people he believes in and will set him up for the future. But with that being said, I mean, I again, they just got to go prove it. I think I am excited to see what they do in free agency. I'm excited to see what they do in the draft. But overall, I want to see I've been waiting to see who the O-line coach is since the day that they hired Ben Johnson. Like I want to know who is coaching the O-line because everyone knows that that is the biggest issue outside of the D-line on the team right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be absolutely huge. And it sucks that Detroit got to hold on
Hank
to,
Fraley.
yeah, that was one of the few L's for the Bears this offseason. But you know what? I got faith under that they're going to get it right. And because you know what? This was what I was going to say. Look, you know, that one clip that you posted, I'm pretty sure it was the one that you posted, right? Where Ben Johnson is talking to the people at Senior Bowl. And I think this was part of the one that got posted on our Twitter where he was talking about why he coaches and he said relationships. Well, you know, we got to have faith that if that's why he coaches and that's the favorite part of coaching, that the guys that he brought with him, he values the relationships with a lot.
Sure.
If that's the most important thing to him, these guys must be, you know, they must be guys he really, really believes in. And like you said, it's not just about the now, it's about going forward. Guys he can keep building relationships, keep building trust with. So yeah, I say as Bears, right? As Bears fans, you just got to keep the faith that, and it's like you said more than anything. Ben Johnson's gonna be running the show. The other guys are just there to uphold the standard. And you're spot on. The O line is a big thing, and that's definitely that's gonna be the next big thing. We just got to keep our eye posted for the O line going forward.
Well, that is all that I had on the coaches. Dobbs, do you have any final thoughts on the Ben Johnson preliminary coaching staff?
Final thoughts: just keep the faith in Ben Johnson, and I cannot wait to see Caleb this season, Hunter. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's like I waited all year and then they sucked, and it's like I just want it to be next year.
Yeah,
I'm
I need to
tired
see
of feeling like that though. Like I'm
I need to
tired of
see
feeling
Caleb
like
with the
that.
drop count all season, Hunter. No more of that Shane Waldron shit. We actually are gonna have step drop in each play. We're gonna be on rhythm from week one. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know in the comments who you would like to be the O-line coach, or if you like the coaching staff that Ben Johnson has put together.